This episode of the Real Talks podcast is brought to you thanks to the MGF Group, a premier building material supplier in New York City. Whether you're a seasoned contractor or a DIY enthusiast, the MGF Group offers a wide range of premium building materials to suit your every need. From cement to lumber, protection materials and safety nets, the MGF Group has got it all under one roof and pride themselves in timely and reliable delivery. Check out the mgfgroup.com for more information.
This episode of the Real Talks podcast is brought to you thanks to the Taylor Public House. Right on the doorstep of Madison Square Garden, the Taylor Public House is the perfect place to connect with family or friends before taking in a concert or sports event. The Taylor is known for its warm welcome, classy ambiance, and comfort food. It has 2 floors, 3 bars, and 2 private event spaces for parties and gatherings. Be sure to stop by and experience the Taylor Public House for yourself, located in the heart of Midtown Manhattan on the corner of 35th Street and 8th Avenue. Check out thetaylornyc.com for more information.
Hello there. Welcome to the Real Talks podcast. I'm Alan O'Mara, an author, speaker, and mental performance coach with sports teams in the US and Ireland. We originated this podcast in County Cavan, where I'm from, and are coming to you this season from New York City, where I'm based now. In this season of the Real Talks podcast, I'm joined by producer Mary-Kate Boylan, who'll jump in whenever we need some words of wisdom. And together, we're diving into meaningful conversations with authentic people from art, music, sport and life. We're recording at Stella and Fly, a coffee shop and wine bar on New York's Upper East Side, so you may hear some clinking glasses and coffee pours in the background. With that, I'm so happy to be joined by this week's guest, Emmet Brennan. Emmet is an Irish boxer and Olympian. He's competed in the men's light heavyweight event at the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo. The professional boxer holds the Celtic light heavyweight title. Most recently, he made his US debut in New York City's Sony Hall and came out victorious. Emmet Brennan, you're very welcome to the Real Talks podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks. So I've always dreamed of boxing in New York since I'm a kid. Like that, you always have this big dream and how it's going to go in your head, and probably fitting that I'm on this podcast. It didn't go exactly the plan. I've talked to you previously during the week. A lot of that was down to my preparation. So although I did tick a dream off my bucket list, I'm hungry for more.
Yeah, I know, like you mentioned there that we spoke during the week, and I'm supposed to fill in a little gap there. Like after your fight, you were victorious. You know, there's the stuff on social media like congratulations and well done. And I suppose in my first interaction with you, you were probably a little bit almost like downbeat or a little kind of, I don't know, humble is the right word, but you certainly weren't running around like buzzing after getting your first win. And I suppose that conflict of emotions, could you just kind of fill us in a little bit as to kind of what you were thinking and feeling within all that?
Yeah, so I am my harshest critic, and that's probably why I've done so well in the sport. And you probably look at any high performer, they're probably that good because they're very harsh on themselves and they expect high standards. My preparation for the fight, and again, this is like about accountability. Like if you probably had that, if I'm sitting here 5 years ago, I probably would have been pointing the finger at other people and blaming other people. The reason why I was so down over it was my own preparation. I didn't have the high standards that I expect. That sort of crossed over into my performance, and as I said, it was always my dream to fight here, and you want this big performance, and with sold a lot of tickets, my family and all came over, and I wanted to put on a show for them. I didn't, but that all came from the day before, the day of, the week before, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before. It all came down to my preparation, which was, I pride myself on preparation. Again, I talked to you just 5 minutes ago. Preparation probably got me to the Olympic Games. It's a non-negotiable for me. For whatever reason, maybe just being in a different country and it was a different setting and things were different, but my preparation was terrible for this fight and I crossed over into my performance. If you take a backward step, I still won the fight. It was a great night, a great atmosphere. There was lots of people there. We made a lot of noise. It was everything I wanted and more. So if I am to take a backward step and look at it a week on, it was great. It was an unbelievable experience. On top of that, we made the mistakes. You'll never make them mistakes again. So it was a learning curve. you got the win. We got up to, I think I'm 59th in the world now after 3 fights. No one is really doing that. So a lot of positives from it.
Big time.
A lot of positives from it. But again, you're harshest critic and you want to put in the performance that you train for. Didn't happen, but you know, with Gaelic, it's a results business. You got the win and you move on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like really important. That's what I was going to say to you, is that, like, I suppose in the immediate aftermath, you probably, you're processing a lot and you're reflecting in terms of the preparation, probably the fight itself. As the kind of days or the weeks go on, are you starting to be able to zoom out of it a little bit more and kind of, yes, there's like huge learnings there that you're going to take from the reflection, but also take in some of the good things, the positive things, and like stitching them together? Because it sounds like the experience ultimately, while there's, you know, the good, the bad and the ugly and everything in between, it sounds like it's an experience that's going to drive you forward, both to be a better boxer, to be a better person, and then also to want to do this more and to do it again. Would that be a fair kind of snapshot of it?
Yeah, 100%. And then you obviously have to look at not only your preparation, like your team and exactly what you're doing and what has to change. So if I had gone out there and performing really well, even though my preparation was bad, you sort of neglect the preparation, then you forget about that because you
papers over the cracks.
Yeah, the papers over the cracks, and you forget about the things that you've done wrong, and you go and do that again, and you might come unstuck the next time. But now I've identified what I've done wrong, identified what I have to do going forward, and we're already working on moving forward with better preparation. And that will never happen again. But like, again, we think we sold 133 tickets on 3 weeks' notice on a Thursday night in New York. It's not easy to do. Going forward, we'll probably do a lot more tickets if you have 8 weeks preparation. It's a Saturday night, you can sort of promote it a lot better. We're sort of tight on time this time around, but going forward, like, we're going to do great things over here, and I'm just looking forward to getting back here. I'm going back to Dublin now next week, but like, I fought in the Tree Arena, which for me again was another dream. It was on Katie Taylor's undercard, but the atmosphere last Thursday was better than the Tree Arena. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Probably haven't fought in an atmosphere like that, which is strange because I've been boxing for 23 years.
What was it about it then? Or kind of trying to take, because I know I'd said to you, like, we couldn't get there because I had training that night with the New York team, but take me inside a little bit of what's like from your perspective in that kind of environment and that.
So it was a very small venue, 600 seats. Obviously you want to be in Madison Square Garden, but there's always the positive for fighting in a smaller venue. 600 seat, a small low ceiling that holds the atmosphere well. If you take it, so there's 133 Irish people there, that's 25% of the people are Irish. Irish people make a lot of noise. We had a marching band, people singing ole, ole, ole. It was something that it was intimate. That's the word I describe. It was intimate. People were literally right at the ringside. Like, it was a very small venue, but as I said, there's always the little sweet spot when you're in the likes of them venues. They hold the atmosphere well. The lads and girls are screaming. So yeah, it was an exciting fight as well. Although it didn't go exactly how I wanted or planned. The lad I boxed was good, and he came to fight for the 8 rounds, and I was going forward for 8 rounds. So we just met each other head on. Again, makes for a good atmosphere rather than a boring fight. So all that tied into each other and made for a great night. Again, I would have liked an Asian night. I would have liked to come away with no black eyes.
Yes.
But you go swimming, you get wet. It's part of the game. But overall, a great experience to walk away from.
I can't help but wonder, like, is there, even for yourself, because obviously, like, you fought in the Olympics, which we'll come to later on too, but like, does something hit different about kind of being like an Irish fighter abroad, like on, I suppose, like not your home turf? Because like growing up, I'm sure the Tree Arena, iconic venue, we all know that, you know, a big boxing nights, big concerts, like it's a big kind of, it's a well-known venue, but to kind of be here, like in New York City, like away from home, but then having that kind of support around you and feeling that energy, does that just hit differently in some way? Like you feel that on the way into the ring and when you're in the ring?
Yeah, it does hit different. So my whole like fascination of New York is I'm ultimately a grafter. I do anything I can to be successful. you look at 99% of Irish people that come to New York, they're grafters. They're leaving the hometown. They've no choice but to work hard. They're over here and they're doing everything possible to make a life for themselves. If you look at the amount of success stories over here, that sort of motivates me. But it's also very, very relatable to my story, because nothing was given to me. Like, I've worked very, very hard to get to where I am. Like yourself, like most Irish people in this city. So it's sort of, to me, I'm very relatable to the Irish people over here, but they're very relatable to me. I can see a lot of my story in the likes of yourself and other people that have been successful here. So that's sort of like entwined into my brain. That's why I want to be here, and that's why I want to fight over here. It's just the people are relatable to me. Like, I love people that just go after what they want. And that's like exactly what I do. I go after what I want, but it's what likes yourself and everyone over here is doing.
And as you kind of take, like, for where you're at now in your professional journey, Emmet, like, and you said it's like the willingness to hustle and getting after what you want, like, what is it that you want now? Like, obviously in terms of moving to New York, you see it as like a launch pad and a stepping stone to kick on again, to fight here. Like, what is it that's in your mind? What's your target goals right now at this point in your life as you look forward? Because I'm sure also in terms of the stage of the career at, there's not like unlimited time left either. So has that like sharpened up your thinking, and kind of what is your thinking around that at the moment?
Yeah, so like boxing is strange. Like, so a lot of people in boxing talk the talk because you have to promote yourself. It's what you have to do. But then when it comes to crunch time of actually going after what you said, a lot of them don't really do it because it's all sort of clickbait. Because you might say, I want to go for the Irish title in my second or third fight. No one actually does it, but I am doing it, and part of that reason is because I'm 32. I've no time to really waste. I have to go after it. Whereas other people will say it and they won't actually do it until like 3 or 4 years down the line. I can see why they're doing it to grow their profile, but I'm in the position where I don't have any time to waste. So I won the Celtic fight title in my second fight, fought in New York in my third fight. It looks like we're going to get the Irish title next. We're hoping for Katie Taylor's undercard in the 3 reign again on May 25th. So that'll get me the Irish title. And I've always said this, once I get the Irish title, I want to defend it in New York.
Okay, brilliant.
So I want to go from May 25th, fingers crossed that I'm on that. It looks like it's highly likely that we're going to be on that. I would love to come back in either August or September to New York and defend that. That's what I want to do. That'll put me 5-0. And by then I should be in the top 40 in the world, which again is sort of unheard of. And that's because I'm taking these chances and I'm backing myself. It's very hard to go after this stuff when you're not making a lot of money and you're sacrificing financially, but I know I'm on the right path. If that gets me top 40 in the world, then you're sort of in a position where you gotta take a big leap. You gotta go after someone that's in the top 50, top 40, top 30, and then you're sort of into where you're gonna reap the rewards financially then. Okay. That's where I want to be in the next 12 months, where I'm in line for a really, really, really big fight, where potentially you're talking about Madison Square Garden, you're talking a big show where there's good money on the line, but it's more what you get when you beat someone in the top 40. Now you're probably in the top 20 in the world, and you're looking at 12 to 18 months where you're possibly in line for a world title or something like that. But that's where you need a good manager and you need a good team around you, because although I will fight anyone, I need a manager behind me that's going to say, well, look, you're only getting X amount for this fight, and the risk is actually a little bit higher than the reward. Go this route. It might take you an extra 6 months, but at the end of it, you'll make this amount of money and you're ranked 15th in the world or wherever it may be. Now you're in line for an intercontinental title. You win that, you're probably mandatory for a world title. So you need the right management team, which I have around me. There's a lot of obviously negatives going into professional boxing at 32, but there's a lot of positives. You sort of look at things from a different perspective. You get a better team around you. You make better choices. So I've made all them choices, and I've got the right team around me that's going to make the right choices for me at the right time. So the next 18 months could be pretty exciting.
It sounds like it could be very exciting for Derek, and even like I hear as you're talking to me, Emmet, like the focus on your face and in your voice. And while yes, there's aspirational long-term goals, you also like lay out like there's clear like baby steps and stepping stones. And one of the things that like jumps out at me within that as you talk is, I suppose in professional boxing, I'd imagine there's plenty of lads that kind of just do very small baby steps and kind of bounce around. And like, you know, you mentioned numbers there, but it sounds like you're willing to take big swings and you are very ambitious. And then kind of, as you just touched upon there, I'm curious around the sense of becoming a professional boxer at 32, you said, like kind of, has that helped you like enter it, I suppose, with more perspective? And then also kind of what drove that decision, or how did it come around that you are entering at that maybe later window where someone might expect you to do that at 25 or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Say, oh, there's 7 years you could have had to be doing all that journey you just you outlined in like 18 months. So tell us a little bit about, I suppose, the perspective you have on it now, and then kind of how this opportunity and like why you're doing it now came around.
Yeah, I suppose I'll go into how I got into it first. So when I first got into boxing age 10, I had 2 goals as a 10-year-old. One was to be an Irish elite champion, and 2 was to be an Olympian. They were my goals from the second I walked into the sport, age 10. I didn't become an elite champion until I was 25, and I wasn't walking away from the sport until I reached them. So I would have never gone professional if I didn't reach them, because they weren't what I wanted as a child. I was an elite champion and an Olympian. I suppose I walked away from boxing age 22. I only came back age 25. And initially I probably would have been 29 going to the Olympics, but COVID pushed that back a year. So once I became an Olympian age 30, the Olympics was still always my only goal. And the average age of an Olympian boxer was actually 24 or 25. So I was 5 or 6 years past that as I was. When I came back from Tokyo, I had the choice either to look at the professional ranks, look at to go to Paris, or retire. They were the 3 choices I had. Straight away, I was like, it was hard enough getting to the Olympics age 30. Now try to get there age 32, 33, the Paris, I was like, it might just be a step too far. It might be, because like the way boxing, you can describe boxing, is amateur boxing is like a 100-metre sprint. Professional boxing is like a marathon. Whereas you gotta be fast, you gotta be out of the blocks very quick. For amateur boxing, it's over 3 rounds. Professional boxing is over 10 to 12 rounds. So I was like, look, you have to call it what it is, and you have to be realistic, because I can spend 3 years going back for the Olympics and probably not get there, or else I can build a profile, I can go far in professional boxing and potentially build my profile to where I can have a career post professional boxing. So that was the choice behind that. Now, I knew when I made that choice, I was going to go all in. I wasn't just going to dip my toes in and half do it, because it's not who I am. Mm-hmm. If I'm committing to something, I'm committing to it. So that's why I decided to go with the professional boxing. And then again, you talk about the age. I was only going to go into the professional boxing if I had the right team around me. Because boxing is a sport where it's very easy to get done over. If there's anyone that's going to get done over, it'll be the boxer. The manager, the promoter, they're always alright. But if there's anyone that's going to get shafted, it'll be the boxer. So I needed the right team around me. It was a strange on how I actually got in touch with my manager. So I had a meeting with a different manager that morning that I was going to sign me. Went and met with the manager. When I got there, I just didn't trust or believe in what he was saying. I didn't trust that he had my best intentions at heart, and I ultimately thought down the line I could get shafted. So I decided that I wasn't going to go with him. And that left me sort of in limbo, where if I didn't get a manager in the next month or two, it looked possibility like I would have having to retire. Did you see me interview after the Olympics? I was sort of crying. It went sort of viral at home. That was the interview that actually ended up getting me in touch with my manager now. So a lad that's coaching the Bahrain national team just said, Emmet, can I use this interview to show to the Bahrain national team that it's just about getting to the Olympics, and I had to take loans out to get there. I had to sacrifice so much. He was like, can I show this to the Bahrain National Federation, because they think money can make you an Olympian. You don't realise the sacrifice that you got to do to get there. And I was like, yeah, Tony. He says, fire ahead. And then he goes, if you don't mind me asking, why haven't you gone pro? I was like, to be honest with you, I haven't found the right team. I haven't found the right manager. And he goes, well, look, I'm very good friends with Darren Barker. Darren Barker's a former world champion, probably one of the most respected men in boxing. He goes, do you want me to put you in touch with him? And I was like, 100%. This was an hour after I just walked away from a different manager. Literally 1 hour in between. I went over and met Darren the week after. Darren was actually Eddie Hearn's first world champion. So he's great connections in the boxing world. He took me on. At the time, he had 5 other boxers and me. Since that, he's had getting rid of all the other boxers, and I'm the only person that he's managing. So he grew on great. I 100% believe him. I 100% trust him. He's had to get me some great opportunities. So it's just mad how things work out. It is mad how things work out. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I end up in the professional side of things.
It's funny as you talk there, you know, because it just, I nearly found like I'm half smiling, half laughing, and like just sometimes you believe in those like certain moments in life where just like, you know, a door just opens at the right time, and it's because, you know, your priorities are correct. Like you're looking for the right person, like your values and who you are shines through on a video and an interview, and it starts a conversation. You know, like just kind of be at like-minded people, just find ways to connect, and then it helps kind of push it forward. And I think it's always so nice to hear those moments where I'd say often, whether it's boxing, Emmet, or if, you know, acting, or it's like, okay, you got a meeting with an agent, just take it, like you got one, so like go with it. But then you said like kind of, I think what you're driving on there, I take, is just important to find the right people for you that you feel. I think trust is the word you mentioned as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned their values. So values is a big thing to me, and I couldn't have gone into the professional world where I didn't trust me team. Like, it's a hard enough sport, it's a lonely sport, you sacrifice so much. On top of that, of having someone that you don't 100% trust behind you. So that's where values come into it. And sort of standing up for yourself. Like, as you said there, it's easy just to take the first offer and to want to be a professional boxer and to have this name of being a professional boxer. But we're humans at the end of the day, and it's about, like, if you don't become a professional boxer, so what? There's other careers out there. You can be happy doing something else. It's about being happy as a person. And if you don't trust your team, you're not going to be happy. 100% you're not going to be happy. And if you don't trust your team and you're not happy, you're not going to perform. And you're always going to be looking over your shoulder. And I'm in a position where I don't have to do that now. I suppose my performance in my second fight was unbelievable, and that's probably down to the likes of that, having that team behind you. Obviously I would have liked the performance in the third fight to be the same, but I have 100% trust in my manager, and only had the phone to him on the way in. Like, we've some big things planned for the next few months, and I wouldn't have these opportunities if it wasn't for him. But yeah, that's the positives of going into the sport a little bit older in life and a little bit wiser.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like, and I think, like, as I listen to you there, like, so it'd be easier for us to sit here and be like, right, great, you went to the Olympics, good lad, like, you became a pro boxer, fair play to you, you've won your few fights, that's all, like, you're crushing it, everything's brilliant. If we could go back a little bit to what you mentioned just a little bit earlier about being 22 and stepping away from boxing, I think so there's probably a 3-year gap there, was there?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about, I suppose the decision, A, to step away, and then I suppose B, ultimately to come back? And the reason I asked that question is to frame it a little better is, you know, on this podcast and in terms of conversations myself and Mary Kate would have in day-to-day life, like, you always meet people who are on their journey, like you are right now, like I am, like Mary Kate is. And when you get people who are starting to like get the taste of success, it's very easy just to fall into the trap of, I like Emmet's Instagram, that's great, congratulations. But also then, like, most people on their journey will have those, you can have a moment of doubt, a day of doubt, a week of doubt, a month of doubt, actually quitting and coming away from it altogether and looping back, then hopefully finding a way to loop back to it with more experience and more perspective. And I know I've taken the long way around with the question, but just wanted to frame it a little bit in terms of why I'm asking it, and then to kind of throw it back to you just around that idea of, not the idea, but that decision to step away and then how you came back. That makes sense.
So like, I don't mind talking about it. Like, I've always, I suppose not now I don't, but like as a child, probably from maybe 14, 15, 16 onwards, I suffered with very bad mental health. No one ever knew it because I hid it well. But there was always like doubts there, anxiety, depression, crippling depression as a kid. But boxing always kept me on the straight and narrow. And I suppose as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, I wasn't drinking. I was just going to school and I was training. But there was always mental health problems there. Like from as long as I can remember being a teenager, I had mental health problems. Just not thinking I was enough. And I suppose when I got to age like 20, 21, finished college and you have to go get a job and stuff like that, then I was partying and I was drinking a lot, and we go on to the alcohol probably a little bit later. But I've always knew that I've never been addicted to alcohol, but I've always knew I had such a negative influence on my life. Like that talking about having depression, and then when you do throw alcohol on top of that, it just makes everything 100 times worse. But it's so common in Ireland, and I probably wouldn't be the first or the last person that it's going to happen to. But then, yeah, I suppose I got to 21, 22, I took up a job as an apprentice, and my life was horrible. It was like literally go to work in a job that you hate. I was a 4-year apprentice. I was getting like €250 a week. It was horrible. I was working like 50 hours, €250 a week. Then from there, I'd go straight to training. Then on a Thursday night, I'd probably go to the pub. A Friday night, I'd go to the pub. A Saturday night, I'd do the same. Gambling on top of it. Getting lanes off my man till the next Thursday. And my life just went around in that roundabout week after week after week after week. And then I got to age 22 and I sort of walked away from boxing. But I was never fully out of it. I'd probably go down to the boxing club instead of 5 times a week. I'd probably go down maybe once every second week, and I didn't fight for 2 or 3 years. And then I got to age 24 and I was walking over in Amsterdam as a pipe fitter. I was over there for like 6 weeks, and the depression got very bad. I think I was over there for about 30 days, and it was just like walk 7 in the morning till 7 at night, sprint home to the hotel, get a shower, go out for dinner, drink till about 2 or 3 in the morning, go get a quick nap and go up and go for work. And I'd done that day after day after day after day. And I got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I was crippled with depression. Some very, very bad thoughts going through my head. I was like, the only thing that can get me out of this is boxing. I was like, I gotta go back to it. I gotta go back. And I can remember I left Amsterdam on the Sunday. I was like, I'm going back and I'm going full time at boxing. I don't care about pipe fitting. I don't want to be a pipe fitter. Got home on the Sunday and I was crippled with depression. Went played a football match on the Monday and broke my ankle.
Ah, you're joking.
Yeah, well, broke the ankle on the Monday. So
the opposite of what we talked about earlier. The stars aligning.
So broke my ankle on the Monday, and you can imagine where the next 2 or 3 months went. I was crippled with depression. But in that time, my nephew was born. So it was like a shining light underneath chaos, and he sort of helped me get through all that because I was his godfather, and it was the first time I sort of felt I had to be reliable. It was sort of the first time in my life I felt like I had to be reliable to someone or something. Kept on trying to go back to boxing, kept on falling back to the drinking, the gambling and all that stuff. And then the next year, which would have been 2016, the Olympic Games was on. This is my first competition back. So I would have been back boxing possibly 10 months by then. I fought the number 2 in Ireland in the final of this competition. He was actually on the Irish elite team. I was never on the Irish elite team. I was 25 at this stage and I beat him. And I was like, Jesus, I might be onto something here. So the Olympic Games is in 4 years. It's a long time away. But if I go all in, I've never gone all in the sport before. If I go all in, something special could happen over the next 4 years. And like that, it just flipped the switch in me. I trained completely different. I sort of worked on the mental side of the game. So I suppose for the previous 16 years of this, I went into fights and competitions looking to compete. And I sort of flipped my mindset to I was going into competitions to win. Mm-hmm. And they have to look out for Emmet Brennan, not I have to look out for them. Then I entered the elites in January 2017, and I went back to, I had 2 dreams as a kid. One was being an elite champion, the second was being an Olympian. I'd never won a fight in the elites. To go into this competition and think I was actually going to win it, people probably thought I was crazy, but I did. I went in January 2017, won the Irish National Elites, and that made me number one in the country. That made me, and at this stage again, I was 25 going 26, so I'd never boxed for Ireland. So to have the dream that in the next 3 years you're going to be an Olympian it's delusional, but you got to be delusional to go after your dreams. And I was like, I'm going to make this happen, because I don't know how it's going to happen. But so from there I went into the Irish team out in Abbottstown, the high performance, and I can remember my first day, I was terrified going up. I went in, I trained, I was the worst person in the gym. And this is talking about the
self-doubt and the negative voice kicks back in.
Talking about the switch in your mindset. I was like, I need to be in this environment to improve. I need to be the worst person in the room.
Okay.
In 3 years, I won't be the worst person in the room. I might be now. But I got back to the small things, turning up the training early, applying yourself correctly, listening to the coaches, eating well, hydrating well, sleeping well. I was like, if I tick all them boxes day after day after day after day, there's going to be serious improvements, and in 3 years I could be an Olympian. That's what I done. I just done that every single day. It's easy to do it for a day, and it's easy to do it for a week, but to do it day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, that's where you see results. And for me, I went from being a very average boxer to an Olympian in 4 years. Like, from the outside, it's probably easy to look at that, but if you're involved in boxing and you see where I was in 2017 to where I am in 2021, it's night and day, and it's down to the small decisions.
It's such a powerful story there that you've just told us, and I really appreciate you sharing it. And again, kind of even where I started the question from was, people would often think, okay, climb to success, and you start here and say, you gotta keep climbing, but all the different things, potential obstacles you described there, like your mental health struggles, there's so many spikes, peaks, troughs within that journey there. So you get the spike of, beating the number 2 seed in a fight, and you're like, oh yeah, this is brilliant, I could be brilliant, and then you walk into the gym and you go, oh Jesus, oh no, so, and it's just navigating that journey. And I suppose one of the things I'm thinking about as you describe that, so like mental health when you were really struggling, Emma, and kind of you said that those couple of weeks in Amsterdam sounds like was that close to you hitting your rock bottom in terms of that journey that you have been on?
I thought that was my rock bottom, but the rock bottom came after the Olympics. So I thought I was never going to feel like that again when I got back to what I was doing in terms of boxing. So when I was in Amsterdam, I was age 24, and it was one of the lowest points of my life, and it was quite bad. And then I remember thinking, coming up to the Olympic Games, that was 5-6 years ago. I actually haven't felt like that in 5 or 6 years. I'm fully recovered. That's never going to happen to me again. It's never, look how well my life is going, and look where I am. And even if I don't get the Olympics, I've followed the process and I've gave everything to this dream. Life is quite good. And then obviously I get the Olympic Games, and I come back from the Olympics, and first thing you're Irish, first thing you want to do, even though you don't win a medal or you don't even win a fight at the Olympic Games, first thing you want to do is you want to go on the piss and you want to drink, and everyone wants to buy you a drink. And there's also a lot of probably, I don't want to say trauma after the Olympics, but so what happened to me was I was boxing for 21 years at the time, and I gave everything to become an Olympian. I got injured in the qualifiers going to the Olympics. So when I actually qualified for the Olympics, I was injured. And then I qualified 6 weeks before the Olympics. And for them 6 weeks, my training was done on a spinning bike.
Okay.
I was just on a spinning bike for 6 weeks. Then all the other lads and girls on the team, not that they got an easy draw, but they got a coin draw. I got the world number 2 in my first fight. And I was injured. And then I got beaten. And then I was just going back to accountability. I was not pointing the finger at other people, but I was saying 21 years I trained to get here, and this happens to me. And instead of just standing up and dealing with it, I went drinking, and I went drinking day after day, week after week, month after month, and then I'd stop drinking, and then I'd start again, then I'd stop. Sure. Then I got shoulder surgery in the January. Then I came over here to do what I'm doing right now 2 years ago. Actually, 2 years to, nearly 2 years to the day. So it was the start of March 2022 I came over with the dream of doing what I'm doing right now. So the second I got off the plane, I went to the pub.
Yeah.
And I didn't leave it for 2 months. And then it was Ronan that read out The Man in the Glass, the poem the other day. And it just hit home. When I was over here 2 years ago, I could not look at myself in the mirror. I was at that thrown away opportunity after opportunity. And as you said, it's easy to blame other people. And I was blaming other things and other circumstances. But when I went home at night, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I knew it was me that was throwing away everything. But I got up the next day and I went back to the pub and I'd come back that night and I'd look at myself in the mirror. I'd blame me. I'd go up the next day and I'd go to the pub. And I'd done that day after day. I'd done it for 2 months over here. And that's when I hit rock bottom.
Okay.
So my mum came over. It's a mad one. I bought my mum New York for her 60th birthday. But with COVID, she couldn't come. And I got put back to when I was over here. And she came over. I had about 10 days left in New York. She came over. I'd been here for 2 months and I was drinking day after day. She obviously didn't know I was drinking day after day. You tell her a load of lies.
It's easy to pop onto the phone and say, I was good, training hard.
Yeah, training hard, done my rehab, went to the physio, shoulders great. All lies.
Yeah.
So she came over. When she came over, I was just on the back end of a 22-hour bender. Went out at 2 o'clock on the Friday, met her at like 12 o'clock on the Saturday, slept for about an hour or two. Obviously, the second she sees me, she didn't say it, but she was distraught. And there and then I knew that I had to make changes. I went home that day and I was in bits. I mean, I was just in bed crying. I was like, what am I after doing? Woke up the next day, I was going in to meet them again. I got streptococcal throat. But I thought I got COVID. And I genuinely, this is just a mental state that I was in. I thought I was about to die.
Right.
My whole throat had closed up, my airways had closed, I couldn't breathe. I checked my insurance was out of date. And I know how expensive it is to go to a hospital in New York. I was like, I'm just going to lie here and die. So I'm going to lie here and die. And that's just the mental state that I was in. I thought I was on the way out. Obviously had the voice, video call me ma, she seen I was in bits. I was like, look, it's COVID, don't come over. Didn't see them for the rest of the trip. They had 4 days left. And I had 10 days left in New York. And I was like, I have to give up alcohol. But for the next 10 days, I'm going all out. I'm going, leaving no stone unturned. I went literally flat to the mat. Day in, day out, drinking for the next 10 days. And then that led me to the tour in May 2022. I haven't drank since. Just got on the plane home to Ireland, changed everything. Madness. But in them 2 months I was in New York, spent 18,000 euro on drinking.
I think like as you share that, and this is something I've had this conversation before with people and I've experienced variations of it. I was like, sometimes New York City is like the best place in the world for people, but also at times it can almost be the worst because there's no off switch and there's always a place to go if you want a beer. There's anonymity as well. You can pop into one bar and then if that fella starts asking you a question or sussing you out, you can just go to the next one and the next one and no one knows who you are. And I think as a listening to you sharing all that, Emma, and I really do like appreciate your honesty and your insight on that. Like you touched upon even going back to as a young man, alcohol was, and how I would describe it, and if it's wrong you can tell me, but when I struggled myself around the same age, like I always felt like alcohol was like throwing petrol on the fire. Like, so I was already dealing with depression, you're already dealing with the stuff mental health wise, and then this was just like, it just light up like when so I can only imagine then, like, I suppose what I'm curious about mentally is for you, having done 2 months here of that, like how low you are mentally, right? And then to kind of then double down on it and going to go 10 more days at it. Like, how did you even get through that block of time? Like, because you must have just been like, in terms of energy and everything, you must have just been running on fumes at that point, right?
It was more like it was just numbing everything.
Yeah.
So it was just numbing everything. So, like, I suppose there's positives and negatives to being an all-in type of person. So I'm all in on everything. That's the bad stuff as well. The partying, the alcohol, And I always was, even as a kid. So you talk about having like depression and anxiety. Then you go out and you drink yourself to oblivion, and you wake up and you don't remember a thing last night. And like, what was I saying? The scratches on my arm, was I fighting? Who was I talking? What did I say to that person? Then the anxiety just doubles or trebles, and then that brings on the depression, and then you go do it the week after and the week after and the week after. If you're that type of person, I don't think alcohol is good for you, and I am that type of person. Now, I would love, and I still sort of fantasise with the idea of going for 4 or 5 pints of Guinness with my mates and then going home. I might be able to do that once or twice, but eventually that will creep into 7 or 8 points, and that'll creep into 11 or 12, and then before I know it, I'll be back to where I was. So that's the reason why I don't drink anymore. But back to your question on the 10 days. I sort of, it was a strange 10 days because I had friends coming over in different blocks. So we could go party with them for like 3 days, and then they were gone home.
Fresh wave coming in.
Then a fresh wave. And so it was just like, it was just topping up and topping up and topping up. And then the Katie Taylor fight was on, and it's a mad one. So I done everything possible to go on that Katie Taylor fight. Everything possible. I wanted to make my debut on that. And this is sort of where my mindset was. I remember again, obviously I was out on a bender, didn't stop drinking till about 6 or 7 in the morning, but I got tickets to go to the public walkout, and I had begged Eddie Hearn for an opportunity for this fight, and Eddie Hearn was standing from here to that wall away, and I was that hungover I didn't even notice.
Oh wow.
And it was probably a blessing in disguise, because I would have gone over and saying something stupid, or I would have looking terrible, and he would have said, I'm never giving this fella an opportunity. But that's just the state that I was in, that I didn't even see him, didn't even notice he was there. But if my story sort of says anything, there's always time for change. There's always time to turn things around. Like 2 years later, I'm fighting on a Katie Taylor undercard in the 3 Arena. Sorry, 18 months later. Haven't drank now in 2 years. Purely devoted to living my best life and having no regrets and treating people with respect, treat myself with respect. You got to go through a lot of change to get that, and you got to sort of dig deep. And again, we talked about the accountability. You got to stand up and say, well, no, it's not him, it's not her, it's me. I'm the one making the mistakes. I'm the one that's got to change. And if you want to look at it from a proud moment, it's near enough 2 years to the day that my mum was over here, and I turned up still out from the night before and looked terrible. She came and looked at me make my New York debut last week, nice. And it's just a complete turnaround.
That meant a lot to you to have that moment.
Yeah, it was like redemption for me. That's how I describe it. It was like redemption, because you don't ever want to put your mom or your family through that. My sisters turned up where I was there 2 years ago as well, and they were disgusted. They still bring her up, and I cringe and I get anxiety when they bring her up. And I actually, when I was with them there last week, we walked by the pub that I met them in, and I cringed straight away. And I realised as we were walking up, we're going to walk by the pub, and I was like, I hope they don't say anything. I hope they don't notice that's the pub that I met them in. Straight away they noticed, and they brought her up. And it's just like, for me, it's just so cringe, because I'm a million miles away from that person. I was just lost at the time. And the thing is, I'm not going to be the first or last person that does that in New York, that comes from Ireland. I hope if a few people that listen to this podcast that are going through it realise and have a look in the mirror and say, well, look, maybe I do got to change.
Yeah, because it makes you think about, man, like, because your point is true, and like lots of people from Ireland and other countries move to New York, and I suppose that sense of, you know, you move, you change environments, but also like all the stuff that's in you is still in you, and you're still bringing that with you. Do you know what I mean? And even like, there was kind of two things I wanted to, before I kind of come to the change and kind of the chapter now that you're in again, like, one thing that came to mind is you were talking earlier around, say, the Olympics, and like I know lots of studies, like in terms of sports psychology and all that now, like lots of studies have been done around like the post-Olympic kind of crash and fall off. I suppose one of the things I thought about was like, you mentioned side of struggling that you're at those kind of early 20s and making that decision to go like all in to be an Olympian, but like as you look back now and I kind of share a thought or like an idea with you, like it was that like when the Olympics then was over and done and gone, and so to take that kind of piece of the puzzle out of it, like it kind of makes sense that some of the stuff, or a lot of the stuff that had been there before, would then kind of take a hold back again afterwards, because that like purpose, that distraction, that focus was kind of almost popped out, right? And did you have to, was some of your baggage or history in terms of your mental health, like, did you kind of almost rediscover that like post Olympics, in terms of that whole post event come down, like withdrawal, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so like the Olympics is like, it's a big audacious goal. It's there, it's in your mind, and the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning is the Olympics. The last thing you think of,
just all consuming. Like,
it's like every day for 4 or 5 years, it's literally all I thought about. Every decision I made was, is this going to make me an Olympian or closer to being an Olympian?
Okay.
Every single decision was made on that. And I look at, if you want to call it trauma, or whatever you want to call it, looking back at things, literally the second I stepped out of that ring, everything came back.
Swoop back in.
Literally the second I stepped out. So I talked about that interview that I had where I was crying, and it was sort of like, it was an emotional interview, but literally from there, like, and this is so bad, talking about alcohol, this is so bad, right? So I remember the next day, Brendan Irvine fought, the 52 kilo lad from Ireland. He fought against the Philippines and he got beaten. And I was the first person that got beaten. He was the second person. I was thinking, great. I've something to go drinking with. To actually be in that mindset where one of your teammates is at that losing his dream, and the first thing that I'm thinking of is, let's go and
get out of Dodge here.
Yeah. And that to be in that mind frame, like the week before I would have never been in that mind frame.
Sure.
So my whole mindset just completely changed. And then you talk about the post-Olympic depression, or whatever you want to call it. It's known. It happens to things like 80% of athletes. I remember listening to Greg O'Shea on RTE, and he's obviously a wonderful career, and he's a huge following and a huge profile. And he said he was driving his car one day and he just stopped and started roaring, crying, and he thought about ending everything. And like I relate to that so much, but I do think the Irish Olympic Council, you don't want to throw anyone under the bus here, but like, they let us down. Like, there was no protocol or aftercare for no one like ringing you a week later, a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later. It was literally, that's it, you're gone. Okay. If there's one thing that I'd love to come out of something like this, is for them to change and to have some sort of protocol in place where there is aftercare. Because if you know 60 to 80% of people are going to go through a bad time, like in 3 months of the Olympic Games, the obvious thing is to do is to check in on them. That is the obvious thing. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. But that should be a non-negotiable, because these people are giving up a lot to represent Ireland on the biggest stage. Probably the least you can do is make sure their well-being is in good condition.
No, 100%. Like, that's obviously, like, you know, like my day-to-day work. Like, I work as a mental performance coach with teams and athletes, and I feel like it's important to say, like, you invest in someone for 3 months, 3 years, 4 years to get them to perform. You definitely, there's a duty of care there for the decompression and the months afterwards. And hey, if they're going to enter the cycle again, great. But also, if they're going to head off in a different direction, like, make sure you're kind of not holding them by the hand necessarily, but kind of getting them onto a right path. And what I think of is, like, say it's that didn't happen for you, and even as I listen to you, like, it's like the Olympics is such a big thing, like, society wise, we all, like, it's renowned and we talk about it, and there's such esteem to it. And it sounds like that became like your, like, lighthouse, that was just like your shining beacon that you were heading towards for years of your life. And when that, like, knocked off, and I come back to, like, the alcohol, because the thing I was going to ask you about was, like, because I really resonate and relate as you were talking around, like, and I've said before, like, I never felt like I was addicted to alcohol, but I was very willing to choose it because I couldn't deal with, like, my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions. And I suppose you stepping away from alcohol, you said, like, 2 years now, and, like, obviously it sounds like it's been a great decision for you to give yourself that extra bandwidth, that extra space. What else has changed in that window, Emmet, in terms of being able to manage your own thoughts, feelings and emotions better, without maybe necessarily being like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed now, I'm confused, or I'm pissed off, so I'm going to go for a pint or 8 pints, or for a day, or for days? What changed in that kind of window? Like, I know, so you said you had the moment with family and had had that kind of rock bottoming out. But what's worked for you to be able to help you, I suppose, because lots of people listening will have had those thoughts or feelings. So yeah, I'm going to change that, but then, you know, do 2 days, fall back in, or do 2 weeks or fall back in. How have you been able to sustain that for the period that you have, if you don't want me asking?
Yeah, like, so I'll add on top of that, like a lot of people that were talking about the way I was drinking, a lot of them people will be gambling as well. So I was gambling on top of the drinking. So if I spend a lot of money in the pub and you spend a lot of money in the bookies, you don't have a lot of money in the bank. So that's going to bring anxiety and worries on top of that. So that's another thing that I've given up, was gambling. Just as well, it was financially tough getting the Olympics. So you're throwing your money away on top of it. You're not going to leave yourself financially in a good position. But back to the question, yeah. So there's obviously days where I do think, well, I'd love to go for a point. And you have to go on 2 years off. You can reward yourself for it. But like after the fight last week, you're 2 years off, and what's the harm in having 3 or 4 points here with everyone? And as I said, I'm a person of habit, and a good habit is very hard to break, but so is a bad habit. So I don't want to get into the habit of 3 or 4 drinks here a day, because I know, I talked about it earlier, that them habits will grow. They'll grow legs, and the 2 or 3 drinks will then become 5 or 6, and they become 7 or 8, and before I know it, not 100%, but I could be back to where I was. It's in me. I know that's in me. Like, I'm an all-in person. I know that's in me. And all the lads be saying, well, you're not addicted to alcohol, just go out and have 1 or 2 drinks. And we don't want to go out and have one or 2 drinks, because I seen me man's face 2 years ago, and I don't want to do that to the woman ever again. Now, will I ever drink again? I don't know. I like to play with the idea that I can go for the 4 or 5 points. But then again, I look at the trajectory that my life is on. There's been a lot of tough times over the last 2 years that I know if I was drinking alcohol, I probably could have making bad decisions. Or like, I thought before I went pro, when I went for the ECG on my heart, it looked like there was something wrong with my heart, and I ended up 3 months going to heart specialist. And I know if I was drinking on top of that, my mind would have gone haywire, because it looked like I probably wasn't going to go professional. It turns out at the end of it all, they made a mistake and my heart is fine. But if I was drinking alcohol at that time and making bad decisions, it just wouldn't help me. Like, I'm in New York. My family are proud of me. I've opened up a gym back in Dublin. I'm very busy, so I don't think I can afford to have hangovers. And on top of the mental things that alcohol does to me, it also makes me become very unproductive. I won't get anything done. Even if I have 3 or 4 drinks, I'll put everything back by 2 or 3 hours. I won't get jobs done. I won't tick off what has to be done. So right now I have a very busy life, and I can't actually afford to drink time-wise. Like, that's another thing. If you're busy, why would you want to wake up hungover, and why would you want to be groggy when you got things to do? Like, I'm doing probably 14-hour days when I'm back home in Dublin, between training full-time, running the gym, having clients, doing the odd talk here and there. They're very busy days, so if I'm drinking on top of that, I'm just taken away from where I am and where I want to go. It doesn't align with where I want to go at the moment. And again, you don't want to be this sort of bearer of bad news telling everyone you should give up drinking and you should do this, but I would love for everyone just to go out for 2 or 3 months and just see if their life improves. There's nothing wrong with drinking if you can control it, but a lot of Irish people especially don't control it well.
Yeah, I think just like just culturally, like, you know, like, and I've done stints of my life, Emmet, where I haven't drank for, you know, it could be weeks, months, could have been sport wise, could have been because of mental health, but like, I think in Ireland in general, the culture is often of, like, you know, like if it's the binge drinking end of the scale, or like, and then I'm definitely not, where neither of us are sitting here being like, that's never like don't do that. But
there is a lot of positives to going out and having 2 or 3, or having a glass of wine with your dinner, or going on a date with your girlfriend, or meeting up with the lads and having 2 or 3, or a business meeting and you're just relaxing over a pint or whatever. There is a lot of positives to it if you can control it. if you're like me and you can't control it, it's only going to end bad.
Like, in terms of where you're at in your journey now, because it sounds like at different chunks of life, you know, you could be worried or like regretting the past or worrying about the future. But it sounds like you're in a space right now where you feel like even just say the alcohol is one example of it. Oh, it's just not what's right for me. Like for now, you said now multiple times while talking there in the last few minutes, and just kind of, it sounds like right now you're in a good headspace first and foremost, but then also that then like other pillars of your life have kind of, whether you've probably had to rebuild them, honestly, in terms of just like being able to set yourself up to perform and be your best. And like as you sit here today, like having reflected on all that's gone before, like are you, like there must be part of you that is just like genuinely like really excited to move forward from here, because like the insights, the perspective, the lessons you've shared there, like there's a lifetime's worth of stuff in that, you know. And I'm sure, look at the clock here, me and you could probably go for another 3 hours talking about like alcohol and gambling and addiction and like, you know, like emotional escapism and all that stuff. Or we could also talk about experiences in the ring and specific fights. But I suppose like as I kind of bring it all back around, like as you sit here, I feel very privileged having just had this conversation, having learned from what you've talked about. Like, are you excited? Are you able to sit here now? Like, do you feel excited about the future? Is there any part of you that gets worried, scared? Like, what is your kind of feelings as you look forward from this moment?
Yeah, look, I'm sort of, it's a strange one, because I'm not going to say I'm a miserable person, but like, I never get to, like for instance, I qualified for the Olympic Games and straight away I was like, what's next? I won on Kate Hell's undercard in the Tree Arena, what's next? I won last week, what's next? I never, and again, it's probably a trait of being a high performer. Yeah, I never dwell on wins. I'm just thinking, how do we go bigger? How do we go better? But there's some really big things in the pipeline for the next even 6 months that we're trying to work on. So, like, I am living out my dream, and it's, I would say proud is the word I am. And I'll go back to the man in the glass that was read out the other day. Everything I do right now is just to make sure when I finish boxing, I can look at myself in the mirror and know I gave it all. There's nothing I could have tried. There's nothing I could have done to better myself. I've no regrets. I've gone all in. I've shown people respect. I've done everything possible to have the best career. So that's everything I do now. And that's when it was Ronan.
Yeah, sorry, just in case anyone listens wondering. So like I had Emmet in speaking with the New York GA team twice now, which all the lads have loved. I feel very grateful for it. But like last week, Ronan McGinney, one of the coaches, read out a poem called "The Man in the Glass," and I think it resonated with you. And I think you posted on your Instagram yesterday. It sounds like whatever. That's one of the beautiful things about poetry or song. Sometimes it just stirs us up of like it brings out stuff that's maybe drifted a layer or two down and helps it come back up, or to think about it and reflect about it. But it sounds like it landed with you. Yeah, because I've never heard it before, and I don't know how I haven't heard of it. But two, I've seen the poem in my own life from two different perspectives. So I've seen it from the perspective where I couldn't live with myself. I've thrown every opportunity away. I'm not fulfilling my potential. I've so many regrets. But now I look at it from a different realm, from where I am right now, where I've no regrets. I can look at myself in the mirror and know I gave her everything. And it just hit home. I think I could not hit home with you, no matter who you are and no matter where you are in life, because, as I said, if you can't look at yourself in the mirror, and you can probably take some motivation to turn your life around from it, and then if you're where I am right now, you know you're on the right road, and you can look at yourself in the mirror. It's just, it's a great poem. But for me, I am excited for the next year. I'm excited to bring my family, my friends, anyone that supports me on a great journey. I'm excited to fulfill my potential. Whether I get to where I expect myself or not, I know I'm going to have no regrets when I finish. I have a business back home in Dublin that's flying.
so many relationships that, like, that's the good thing about giving up alcohol, or from my perspective, that every relationship I have now is a positive relationship. If I think that someone's no good for me, or it's a negative or a toxic situation, I just remove myself from it. Again, that's back to having no regrets. I don't need to be around people that don't brighten my life. And that goes both ways. I'm probably a better person to be around right now.
Yeah, it sounds like that kind of, as you've done the work over the last years, reflecting like in terms of building your own self-awareness of, you know, who you are, what goes on in you, then as that self-awareness has grown, you've also developed your awareness of the people around you, the environments around you, the things that are good for you and not. And like, I'd always think like when you fuse those things together, can I even go back like earlier years of my life, I used to like, the thing that used to put me off like reaching out for help or like taking care of mental health or like admitting I needed to change or help was that like I thought people would judge me or would like destroy relationships. But if just I listen to you there, it kind of sounds like the same thing happened of like, no, actually these relationships get strengthened because you're a better version of yourself and you're able to show up in those relationships and build trust and build like mutual respect and build like, you know, responsibility. But it's just like, it's a really nice thing. And they're also all little things in your day-to-day life to help you be better then when you go to perform.
Yeah, and one thing, because I consciously made the decision to give up alcohol, and I can remember I was afraid that I was going to lose my friends. I was afraid. I was like, geez, I'm going to be so lonely now. Like, but I said, I don't care. I'm doing this. I just see my friends in a different environment now. I go for a coffee with them, or I'll go to the pub and have a non-alcoholic or a 7-Up, but I'll be gone at 9 o'clock. They might still stay out till 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm 32, I don't want to be staying in a bar till 3 or 4 in the morning. It's not what I want to do. Like,
some nights I'm asleep by like 9 o'clock now.
It's not what I want to do. 10 years ago was different. So I'm quite happy that I can get out there at like 9 o'clock and they go and do what they want to do. And, you know, I have friends that probably should give up alcohol and they look at me and they do say, I'd love to be able to give her up. I'm like, you can't give her up. Like, what's to be afraid of? Like, your life is going to be better if you give her up, if you're having problems. But I was afraid I was going to lose friends. I haven't lost any friends. I just see them in a different environment. And if I hadn't, relationships have probably got stronger with them, whereas they can come to me now and say, well, look, I'm not happy with this. Whereas before, you know yourself, your lads, you're never really going to open up about stuff like that. Whereas like now I can say, well, look, you probably should give up drinking, you should give up alcohol or give up gambling. But who was I to say that 2 or 3 years ago when I was with them, do you get me?
Yeah.
So it's probably, the relationship has probably gone a different route, but definitely more open and stronger and a lot more mature, where you can have them conversations that you're not going to have in a pub while everyone's drunk and doing what they're doing. So it's made the relationship stronger. I connect with people a lot better. It's been nothing but positive.
No, I love that. I know you mentioned conversations there, and I suppose I just want to say, like, I feel very grateful to have had this conversation today. Like, I really mean that. Like, I think people are going to resonate with so many different parts of it in different ways. And then I'm just kind of curious before I wrap up, like, Mary Kate, like, you've been listening to us chatting for a while, and just if there's any kind of key things that jumped out to you or anything that you kind of is bubbling on your mind as Emmet's like at this point of his journey now, kind of love to hear from a different perspective before we wrap up.
Yeah, it makes me think of, you know, the space you're in now where you can like be proud of yourself and be living with no regrets and have this clarity about intuition. Like you have the right team around you because you were able to actually be like listening to yourself when you're like having these meetings. And, you know, it sounds like it's because like a couple times you chose to like live your dream. And even when you got like knocked back, you got back into it. And so many people listening, like for you, it's boxing, but for them, it's wanting to start a career in art or writing, or actually I want to switch careers like later in life. And I love this one writer, Julia Cameron, and she talks about, like, people will say, she writes about, you know, people following their right path, and people will say, well, do you know how old I'll be by the time I'm able to do that? And she's like, yeah, you'll be the same age as if you don't. And I guess it just kind of can you pinpoint, when you decided, you know what, okay, the Olympic Games are in 4 years. I can go all in and train and I'm going to do this. Or when you kind of turned it around, you were like, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to go all in and do this. Was it a mindset shift? Kind of maybe advice that you could give people who are wanting to take that leap? And it takes a lot of strength to do it.
Encourage.
Yeah, like what you said there. So when I came back from Amsterdam, I was like a third or a fourth year apprentice. So I was starting to make good money in my job. And like that, what you said, so like the 4 years were going to go by either way. I can be 4 years making probably €1,000 as a pipe fitter back home, which is good money in Ireland, but not really happy and having regrets, and I can be so I'll go back to Billy Walsh. So Billy Walsh was the Irish amateur head coach in 2015, 2016. This is probably the best bit of advice I ever heard. He said to one of the boxers, I'm not going to name the boxer, he said, in 4 years time you can be in Tokyo at the Olympics, or you can be at home looking at the Olympics. It's what you do over the next 4 years. The 4 years is going to pass, no matter what. You decide by your actions and what you do over the next 4 years where you're going to be. Them 4 years are going to pass. For me, I only heard that during the journey, but it definitely resonated with me, because when I decided to step away, it was a tough decision, because I knew I was given financial freedom. I was going to be broke financially for the next 4 years. But after 4 years, I could be in Tokyo at the Olympic Games, or else I could be on a site in Dublin pipe fitting. It's going to pass either way.
I love that. It's just, because it is, and every time you make a big decision like that, it's looped in your brain for so long. Like, you've thought about it for so long, and it's building up to that decision, but actually doing it. And
not everything turns out the way it turned out for me. So there is the negative in your brain. Well, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? What if I didn't become an Olympian? But if I didn't become an Olympian, and it's easy for me to sit here and say that because I did, I think I would have been okay with the decision, because I went after, and I can sit there in 10 years time and know that I've no regrets. I went after the Olympic Games rather than sitting there on a site with a bad back, maybe a lot of money in the bank, but looking at the Olympic Games thinking, I wish I had gone for them. That's probably what drives me on, is that, and I probably said that a lot of times in the podcast, no regrets. And I mentioned it when I went into the New York team the other day, having no regrets. Like, I know so many boxers and so many people that said, I wish I could have done that, I wish I could have done that. You could have done it, you just decided not to go after it. So no regrets, something that I live by.
Yeah, I think that's so huge. And I think one last thing that just comes to mind for me is just that, like, making big decisions takes a lot of courage, like you've both talked about there. But then it's like, you can write it for the first day, it's all great, I'm all in. But then I suppose as the days goes on, it's just that consistency of, you say your training routine that you described earlier, and like how you went about it. Like, it's just the consistency of taking action, of like reminding yourself of, why you made that decision in the first place, and having the distant goal. And then it is like, it's 100 baby steps, right? Like, you've got to take the jump to say, right, I'm going for it, and articulate it and say it to people. But then I think one thing that comes to mind for me is the consistency of taking baby steps. And then I'll loop it all back together, because it was a theme in the conversation earlier on, is surrounding yourself with those 2, 3, 4 people that say, do you know what, Emmet, or like, do you know what, Mary Kate, like, that is a great idea, like, you should do that, and if it can help anyway. And I've always found, I know you've talked about New York and coming here and the US side, like, I've always found there's a lot of people like that on this side who, they have moved here for their own reasons, they have taken a chance on themselves, and they just, that's what, like, it could be in a theatre show, it could be painting art, it could be boxing, it could be Gaelic football, whatever it is. Like, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Have your shot. And like,
what I call it's compound interest. Them small little steps, day after day after day after day, because they get bored. They do.
Some of it's not glamorous.
Yeah, after a week it gets bored. But it's compound interest, 1% every single day. So, like, say for instance you're doing yoga or mobility, like, first day you try it, as stiff as a board. After 3 months, Like, you're moving a lot better, but it's them small little baby steps day after day after day. Very easy after a week when you're still stiff, you're like, this isn't working, I'll forget about it. But we keep on going and going and going. That's where results happen, and that's probably the difference between people that succeed and people that don't succeed. People will stop. People that aren't seeing the results after 14 days, 21 days, 28 days,
Motivation fades.
They might eventually walk away after a month, but the person that succeeds is the one that'll wake up on the second month, the third month, the fourth month. They'll still keep going without seeing actual results. Eventually, over time, that compound interest adds up, and you got it.
No, that's it. I think, like, just genuinely, like, congratulations on everything you've succeeded at so far. Thank you for sharing all the lessons and insights today with us, because it's such a big part of it. Like, the journey's quite often very messy, and I think it's always important to have those conversations. And I really appreciate the one we have today. And I think last for me certainly is just the very best of luck on the next chapter of the journey, you know, in terms of the Irish title, and then whatever that leads to, and wherever that leads to, definitely going to be keeping a close eye on you. And if you're back here, we'll catch you again the next time you're back in town. So thank you, Emmet.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Real Talks podcast. The Real Talks podcast is hosted by me, Alan O'Mara, and produced by Mary Kate Boylan. Video and audio were mixed and edited by Jack Deacon at Plural Video and Design. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Real Talks podcast on your preferred platform to keep up to date with our new weekly episodes. You can also sign up for our newsletter at www.realtalks.news. You can also follow the podcast at Hey Real Talks on Instagram and TikTok, and you can follow me there by searching at AOM the Cat. Thanks for being here, and we'll be back next week. This episode of the Real Talks podcast is brought to you thanks to the MGF Group, a premier building material supplier in New York City. Whether you're a seasoned contractor or a DIY enthusiast, the MGF Group offers a wide range of premium building materials to suit your every need. From cement to lumber, protection materials and safety nets, the MGF Group has got it all under one roof and pride themselves in timely and reliable delivery. Check out the mgfgroup.com for more information.
This episode of the Real Talks podcast is brought to you thanks to the Taylor Public House. Right on the doorstep of Madison Square Garden, the Taylor Public House is the perfect place to connect with family or friends before taking in a concert or sports event. The Taylor is known for its warm welcome, classy ambiance, and comfort food. It has 2 floors, 3 bars, and 2 private event spaces for parties and gatherings. Be sure to stop by and experience the Taylor Public House for yourself, located in the heart of Midtown Manhattan on the corner of 35th Street and 8th Avenue. Check out thetaylornyc.com for more information.